My name is Mary. Billions know me as the mother of Jesus. To some, a face in churches, a name in whispered prayers. But before the world called me blessed, I was a daughter, a dream, a burden, a miracle before the angel. I was just a girl, born from two hearts that had nearly given up. My story began with my mother and my father Anne and Joachim. Righteous, honest, but aging, Childessa curse. My mother would walk to the temple, alone, past the stairs and whispers. She would kneel in silence. Not a word, just tears. She had prayed for years. For a child, any child. But heaven stayed silent. Until the day my father left. He didn't say goodbye. He walked into the desert, away from the village, away from everything to fast and pray. For 40 days, he ate nothing. 40 nights, he slept beneath the stars with nothing but the wind and his pain. He begged God not just for a child, but for a sign that he had not been forgotten. And God answered. It wasn't fire or thunder. It was an angel who came to my father in the wilderness and spoke words he never thought he'd hear. Joachim, your prayers have been heard. Your wife will bear a daughter. She will be filled with light, and her name will be Mary. That's how I came into this world, not by chance, not by man's design, but by a promise. I wasn't born in a palace, I had no crown, but from my first breath, heaven had already marked me, not for glory, but for something far more dangerous. I was raised in Nazareth, a small hill town, poor, dry, noisy with chickens and children, quiet in all the wrong places. There was no glory in Nazareth, just survival. We lived in a simple stone home, one room, dirt floor, a fire pit for cooking. My mother, Anne, was strong, though most wouldn't see it. She had a quiet kind of discipline. She taught me how to grind grain, bake bread, carry water without spilling a drop. I watched her pray every morning before the sun rose, her face worn from years of tears and hope. My father, Joachim, had deep lines in his face and dirt in his hands. He never said much, but when he looked at me, I felt seen. He believed I was an answer from God, and he treated me like I mattered, even when the rest of the world didn't. I remember working beside him in the garden one day, the soil dry, the crops barely surviving, and he said, "Mary, you came when we thought we were finished. God gives gifts when he chooses, not when we deserve them." Then he just kept digging. That's the kind of faith I grew up with. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady. We weren't rich, but we had rules, tradition, order. I was taught to obey, to listen, to stay within the boundaries set for me. A girl's life was simple. Keep the home, prepare for marriage, bear children. But I always felt different. Not rebellious, just restless. Curious. I wanted to understand the world, the scriptures, the God we spoke of but never questioned. Sometimes I'd sneak into the synagogue after everyone left. I'd sit alone in the back, staring at the scrolls. I couldn't read yet, but I listened. I remembered. I asked questions that made the elders uncomfortable. Still, I kept those thoughts to myself. I wasn't foolish. I knew how the world worked. I was a girl. And girls didn't lead. Girls didn't get visited by angels. At least, that's what I thought, until everything changed. I was around 14 when they told me I was to be betrothed. There was no ceremony, no long discussion. Just a quiet conversation between my father and Joseph's family. And then it was done. That's how it worked. A girl didn't choose, a girl accepted. I knew who Joseph was. Everyone in Nazareth did. He was older than me, but not by much. A carpenter, quiet, reliable, steady. He built roofs and furniture and tools with hands that never stopped moving. He was respected, and more importantly, he was kind. When I heard his name, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded. Inside, I didn't know what to feel. I wasn't ready to be someone's wife. I barely felt like a woman. But saying no wasn't an option. That wasn't how things were done. And besides, part of me wondered if this was the next step in the story God was writing for me. I didn't understand it, but I trusted it. My mother tried to comfort me. She said Joseph was a good man, that I would grow into love, that obedience brought blessing. I nodded again. The day we were formally betrothed, Joseph barely spoke to me. He looked at me once, not with desire, but with uncertainty. Like he, too, was caught in something bigger than either of us. There was no romance, no touch, just a promise. And in our culture, a betrothal was as binding as marriage. I was his, and he was mine. And still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Something I hadn't chosen. Something I wasn't ready for. And I was right. Life in Nazareth was simple. Every day felt the same: morning chores, prayers, helping my mother, fetching water, working with fabric. I didn't question it. That was what girls like me were expected to do. One afternoon, I had just come back from the well. The water jar was heavy against my side. My back ached, and my hands were still wet. I walked into our home, a quiet space, lit by the sun coming through the doorway. The breeze was soft, warm. It smelled like earth and bread. I sat down on my stool and picked up the wool I'd been working on. I was spinning thread for the temple curtain. It was sacred work, and I took it seriously. My fingers moved automatically, but my mind wandered. I kept thinking about Joseph, about the marriage, about what my life was going to look like. I didn't feel ready, but I was trying to trust that it would all work out, that God had a plan, even if I didn't understand it yet. Then, everything changed. The room went completely still. The air felt heavier, not dangerous, just different, like time had stopped. I looked up. Someone was standing there. He wasn't like anyone I had ever seen. He looked human, but not ordinary. There was light around him, and something about him felt impossible to explain. Powerful, calm, like he didn't belong to this world. He looked at me and said, "Greetings, Mary. You are favored. The Lord is with you." I didn't speak. I didn't move. I didn't know what to think. Why would someone like me from a poor home in a forgotten town be called favored? He must have seen the fear on my face, because he said, "Don't be afraid. You found favor with God." And then he told me something I couldn't have prepared for. "You will become pregnant and give birth to a son. You will name him Jesus. He will be great, the Son of the Most High, and his kingdom will never end." I felt like I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. I said the only thing that made sense. "How? How is that possible? I haven't been with anyone. I'm not even married yet." He answered without hesitation, calm, certain. "The Holy Spirit will come upon you. The power of the Most High will cover you, and the child you carry will be holy, the Son of God." It didn't make sense. It still doesn't, even now. But in that moment, I knew one thing. This was real, and I had a choice. I was scared. I didn't know what would happen to me, what people would say, what Joseph would do. But I also knew I couldn't turn away from what God was asking. So I said, "I am the Lord's servant. Let it happen just as you said." Then he was gone, just like that. The light faded, the air shifted, the silence returned. But nothing in me was the same. The days after the angel left felt like walking through a dream or a nightmare. Nothing looked different, but everything was. I was pregnant, but there was no sign yet, no bump, no sickness, just this terrifying, sacred truth sitting inside me like a fire no one else could see. I didn't tell anyone right away. I couldn't. I barely believed it myself. But time doesn't wait for understanding. It started small. My mother watching me more closely. My moods, my appetite. She noticed I was quiet, distant. Then one morning, I saw it in her face, suspicion. When I finally told her, her hands froze mid-motion. She didn't speak for a long time. And when she did, it was only one question. Was it Joseph? I told her no, that it wasn't any man, that God had sent a messenger, that I was carrying the Messiah. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I don't blame her. No one believed me. Not my mother, not the neighbors, not the elders at the synagogue. The look started first, then the whispers, people turning away when I walked past. I'd grown up in this village, they had watched me since I was a child, and now they looked at me like I was something dirty. It didn't matter what I said. Nothing could undo what they thought they saw. Then came the hardest part, telling Joseph. I stood in front of him, heart pounding. I didn't try to explain it all, how could I? I just told him what happened. His face didn't change. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse me. He just looked at me. Then he walked away. For 3 days, I didn't sleep. My chest ached, my stomach turned. I kept imagining what he must be thinking. That I'd betrayed him, that I was lying. And under our law, if a woman was found to be pregnant before marriage, the punishment could be death. He could have dragged me into the street. He could have made an example of me, but he didn't. When he came back, his eyes were red. He looked like he hadn't slept either. He said quietly, "I had a dream. An angel came to me, told me not to be afraid to take you as my wife, said everything you told me was true." I broke down, not from relief, from something deeper. Gratitude. Love. The kind of love that doesn't come from comfort or feeling, the kind that chooses to stay. He said we would leave the village, that we'd start again. He took my hand, and from that moment on, I wasn't alone.